Good evening. We'll be starting in just a moment. All right. First, I'd like to thank everybody for attending. And those of you who will be watching on the rebroadcast of this event, thank you. Your concerns about understanding the issues confronting our community and casting your votes intelligently is the basis of good democracy. So before I get started, what I would like to do is acknowledge some of the people and departments that have helped make this event possible tonight. And first and foremost, I'd like to thank the Winthrop Senior Center in the town of Winthrop. I'd also like to acknowledge a few people in the room tonight. First, we have Tony Zambuto, councilor from the city of Revere. Nice to see you, Tony. I want to thank Randy Cipolletta, who is with the Revere City Committee. Joe Stefano with the East Boston City Committee. I'd like to acknowledge somebody who's been like my right-hand person since she was elected, Vera Carducci, as a state committee woman. And Paul Ronukaitis, longtime state committee man. So at this time, I'd like to have Gianna Thomas join me at the podium. So what I would like to do is explain Meet the Candidates Night. So Meet the Candidates Night was created by the Winthrop Republican Town Committee as a way to get to know the candidates vying for office. It was designed to be nonpartisan, with the belief that an informed public will make the best decision, and the results will make our community and our state a better place for everyone. So today's event is being presented in the same manner as all the other previous events. It is being done with the help of the other local committees, which is East Boston and Revere, and I thank them for their support. All candidates in office are invited. So we invited both candidates for state senate here. All candidates are asked the same prepared questions. Candidates have an opportunity to respond, and the committee does not respond to their answers. It is the community that will decide. We are very disappointed that candidate and current Senator Lydia Edwards has again decided not to participate and engage with our communities. However, voters still need to understand the issues confronting our district. So tonight, we will ask those questions to candidate Gianna Thomas to hear from her voice on our pressing issues. This next part is new for us. We will briefly report the sitting senators' publicly stated comments on the questions that we are posing to candidate Thomas this evening, so that it may allow the voters better insight into which candidate is the candidate that they should be choosing on November 5th. If time permits, after the prepared questions are asked of our candidate, we will take written questions from the audience, and they will be posed to candidate Gianna Thomas. And if you'd like to do that, there's index cards at the back table with a pen, and you can give it to one of our representatives, preferably Vera Carducci in the back, and she'll race them up to me. I might selfishly add that the Winthrop Committee welcomes participation in the Winthrop Republican Town Committee by any Winthrop residents that are Republicans or unenrolled residents. And if you'd like to do that, you could reach us at Winthrop Republican Town Committee at Facebook. So, thank you for participating. In candidate Thomas, would you like to introduce yourself to the audience before we get to the questions?
Yes, please, Paul.
Okay. You can use this microphone, and I'll use this one now.
Thank you. First and foremost, I'd like to thank everyone who is here this evening in person and those who are joining us online and in the simulcast. Again, my name's Gianna Tamas. I am running for our 3rd Suffolk State Senate, as you all are aware since you're here. But with that being said, I am a normal, average citizen of our district. I grew up in Winthrop, Massachusetts, to a very middle-class family. We've heard that term a lot in recent days, but I can guarantee that I truly grew up in a middle-class family, and my husband and I still live as middle-class citizens and understand the hardships and everything that's going on and affecting everyone in our district. My promise, and I mean this wholeheartedly and sincerely because I love our district so much, is to serve you, the people, and the best interests of you all, and not to make false promises and then not show up, as I've heard over and over again from our current Senator, Lydia Edwards. It's been a consistent comment I've heard. I will make that promise to always be available and to show up and to do everything in my power to ensure that our district and our communities thrive. I want to thank Paul Caruccio and our GOP wards and chairmen and women and everyone that participates for providing this opportunity to answer these questions so you can get to know me better and further. Thank you so much, and thank you, Paul.
Well, thank you, John. So my first question this evening is about what else? MBTA 3A bill. So the MBTA 3A bill is a controversial topic in our district. And for those of you in the audience or at home who watch this later who are unaware, this bill overrides local zoning laws. And in Winthrop, 3A demands Winthrop add an additional 882 residential housing units. Many residents in Winthrop are fighting 3A via local town involvement and lawsuits against the state. There are many other communities also embroiled in lawsuits with the state about this 3A bill. So, regarding the MBTA 3A rule, candidate Thomas, what would be your official position on 3A rule and why?
My official position is that I'm completely against it. First of all, we have local zoning laws, and they're there for the purpose of being voted and approved by residents, number one. Number two, all of these zoning laws are, when they're implemented, they take into account a 5-year growth period. This wasn't taken into account. They just, the legislatures and those who wrote it, such as Senator Joey Boncory, who's from this town, which makes it even more baffling as to why he'd want to implement such a rule and force it on us as a very small community. All of the towns that were picked were just simply cherry-picked because they were along the MBTA lines with the thought and the theory that it would help with the housing crisis that we have. Unfortunately, with 3A, there is no incentive or initiative to ensure that those units that are being forced down the community to be rezoned are affordable housing. So with that being said, that's a critical issue, number one, and another reason why Winthrop cannot handle it and certain communities around our district cannot handle it. Third of all, the development also requires, and if it was implemented here in Winthrop and certain parts of Revere, as we know is already congested, and East Boston is exempt somehow, some way, where the MBTA is the center point in the main hub of all lines of transportation from the MBTA, but somehow they're exempt. So with that being said, and that set aside, just keep that in the back. It's an increase of all of our local resources, our schools, without the additional aid from the state. The state hasn't said when implementing 3A, we promise additional Chapter 70 funding for the school system, local resource funding, grants, and ensuring that we are able to be sustainable as a community with the additional folks. Our Winthrop school system alone is expected to have an additional 1,000 students if this is implemented, and we just don't have the capacity for these additional students with the ever accruing need for ESP teachers, ESL teachers, and aides, and so on and so forth, which the state also isn't providing additional funding. This is going to be a huge issue. We've talked about 3A. We've had a lot of meetings here in 3A. So my official position is I will do everything in my power to addend it, go against it, make my voice heard as your senator to let everyone know that Winthrop and Revere are completely against it.
Thank you. So this is the new section of the candidates' night, new part. On March 28th, 2024, in the Winthrop transcript on page 4, and a guest op-ed written by Lydia Edwards stated, it's paraphrased, "Winthrop is being called to do her part. We can choose to follow in the footsteps of Milton, entangled in legal challenges, or we can proactively engage with the Healy administration to mitigate required housing in state zoning changes." Edwards states, "Let's choose the latter." She is in favor of 3A. Maybe I'll do this one a little differently. Illegal immigration is the next topic. So, candidate Edwards has stated regarding illegal immigration, and this according to a WCVB Channel 5 interview with Lydia Edwards on August 4th, 2024 at 11:34 a.m. Lydia Edwards stated, "I absolutely do not want to change the right to shelter law. I am proud of it. Also, according to a WBUR debate with Jay McMahon on October 3rd, 2022, in discussing illegal aliens getting mass licenses, Senator Edwards stated, I genuinely don't care how they got here. So in regards to illegal immigration, the question, we no longer have a functioning border. As a result, the state and country has been flooded by illegal immigrants. You can see it in our district, the communities of Winthrop, Revere, and East Boston. Massachusetts has been supporting these illegals at a cost of many billions of dollars a year with no end in sight. What is your position in your proposals on illegal immigration and the Massachusetts right to shelter law?
Thank you so much, Paul. First of all, my stance is to end sanctuary city and state status, number one. Thank you. Our right to shelter law, first and foremost, needs to go to our citizens, our veterans, and our homeless. They should have the right to shelter before and above all else. There are so many people here that have found themselves, folks just like you and I, that maybe lost a job, maybe lost a spouse they were counting on, and ended up losing their home. safe space per se, and find themselves on the street and can't get into shelters because it's overrun by illegal aliens. I am totally against it. We have brought in over 11 million illegal aliens, and that's like making the population of 6 states alone. So you have New Hampshire, Maine, Vermont, Wyoming, and Delaware and Rhode Island. You basically have doubled the capacity and the population of 6 already states here. It's just unfathomable. When it comes to Maura Healey's administration of unilateral executive orders, she made one recently to the town of Norfolk to transition a former prison, a vacant prison, into a migrant shelter without providing any other resources for the police, for the school system. Nothing. That town had no say in that. That is not fair. That is not democracy. Democracy starts at the very localist level. Those town folks had no say. And also, how dare our tax dollars be spent on folks that we didn't ask to come in, or vote to come in, number one, and be taken away from all those in need. We need infrastructure. Our schools need to be better funded. And I am not heartless, I'm not coldless. I understand almost everyone has come over to get the American dream, to get the better life, such as our grandparents, our great-grandparents, and our forefathers. They all came here for a better life, but they came here the right way. Even as hard as it was in being sent back to their native country multiple times to ensure their papers were stamped correctly and they weren't ill or deemed their sponsor wasn't up to snuff, according to the government at that time. They made a way, they found a way, and then they made the American dream for themselves. I welcome people to come to America. Our great country is built on diversity of culture, thoughts, and ideas. We just need to do it the right way and not be overrun. It's so overrun. There's so many thoughts. I see everyone's head nodding, and I have so many points that I'd like to make. But yes, I am totally against it, and I'd like to see our state revoke sanctuary city status and state status.
All right.
Oh, when it comes to driver's license, we as American citizens have to provide all types of documentation, insurance, registration, so on and so forth. We all know the process. How are they getting licenses without providing the documentation of residential status, Social Security, birth certificate? So I just think that there's a very unfair balance. That's just me, and I'm completely against that as well.
Well, thank you. The next question is a fiscal question and budget. So Massachusetts has been flush with cash for the last several years. The state budget and spending continue to expand. Total state expenditure, which is state and federal contributions, from 2019 to 2023, went from $59.8 billion in 2019 to $79.9 billion today. Today, the state and local governments are running budget deficits and are looking to increase taxes. Can you discuss our fiscal condition and potential solutions?
So as we know, our fiscal position is dire. We are already 769 million short. That was budgeted for. Which is a very it's unfathomable. It's impeccable to me. There's a budget for a reason, and we need to stay within our means and budget all of our programming within our means, and maybe hold off on certain projects or cut back on certain projects that just aren't as vital and necessary to those in our state at this moment. Massachusetts is also the most expensive state to live in besides Hawaii. We are number one in the continental U.S. So Mayor Wu has a tax plan and this one's unfathomable, which legislates approval that would shift the tax revenues to commercial real estate, which of course we've seen a major decrease, particularly since 2021 and 2022 due to the pandemic, and most folks working from home and companies seeing the cost-benefit analysis to that. So a lot of the office space, particularly in downtown Boston, isn't being utilized. So let's keep that in mind. While taxes on assessed values on residents under 1.5 million will see a decrease, the assets valued greater than 5 million will see a break as well. If Mayor Wu wishes to increase the tax base, she should increase the property tax on the rich homeowners in Beacon Hill and the foreign investors that are buying up all the condos in Seaport. Instead of giving her Democratic donors a tax break, because it's that sweet spot that she's leaving out. So I wouldn't approve that. I would fight against everything in my power and ensure that those that are extremely wealthy and the foreign investors are being taxed appropriately instead of giving breaks over and over.
Thank you. So, research and public comment regarding the sitting senator's opinions on this was a little bit harder to find, but on Friday, September 27th, 2024, the Boston Herald Chris Van Buskirk reported that Lydia Edwards said she supports Mayor Wu's proposal to increase business taxes. In the article, which is titled Tax Plan Debate, Invite Only, on page 7, paragraph 13 and 14. So that's all we could research, and we will move on to the next question, which is education. Many residents are concerned with the quality of public education. School systems seem to be worried about social engineering and not enough about what used to be called the 3 R's, or STEM performance. Would you discuss your ideas on the education system?
So first of all, I support the interdistrict school choice that's already on the books, and I want it to remain in the books as it gives family the freedom of choice to send their children wherever they see fit. I think that's vital and critical because as we've seen what has been going on in the past few years particularly is sometimes the school system values don't align with ours, and therefore we need to move our children to where it does, and if that means homeschooling, it means homeschooling. And what else I can speak to that is parents need to get involved. They need to get on their school committees. They need to get on their town and committees and other local committees such as the PTA to ensure things that aren't reading, writing, and arithmetic that they're not for do not happen. And that's not just, so there's 2 caveats to this. Because first of all, we do need to be loving and inclusive and appreciate our students need to be kind to each other, period. And school should be a safe space, particularly because that's where children thrive to learn, is when they feel safe. But some of the other extra things that are being implemented just aren't necessary. Let's leave it up to the parents. I grew up fine, my parents, we had open discussions, such as all of my other friends. Any questions that we had, I still had a trusted aunt, and I'm sure all these other children do. It's not the job of the teacher in school system to implement other things other than other than the basic educational needs. One of the larger issues that is occurring is, unfortunately, a lot of our students aren't able to read and write just at a standard level. That should be concerning for everyone, first and foremost. That should be our number one priority, is to look and understand what is going on, what time and resources are we taking away, and what extra time is spent away from just getting these kids to the basic standard writing, arithmetic, critical thinking, basic, again, reading. Cursive has been taken out of school. Why is that? That is such an art. But with that being said, I mean, I do support, very particularly that the interdistrict school choice stays on the books, always on the books, and we help additionally fund it when we can.
Thank you. So, according to eastboston.com, on February 6, 2023, Edwards supported Bill SD 1555, which promoted GED for prisoners, which is a separate and specific outreach to each county jail, house of correction, and state prison by financial aid staff of each public institution of higher education. Edwards also supported SD 1529, addressing legacy admissions, which is specifically colleges and universities could not consider an applicant if an applicant has a family tie to the college or university when determining admission. Edwards also supported universal pre-kindergarten. Okay. So the next question is regarding crime. We have been told crime numbers are down. However, now there are reports that crime has actually skyrocketed because the Justice Department is not reporting the crime statistics, and a lot of crime is going unreported. What is your solution to the skyrocketing crime?
First of all, I want to go back to the education thing real quick, Paul, just for a second. I do support universal kindergarten. I think it's absolutely critical and important for these young ones to get a head start, no matter what background you come from in diversity. When it comes to GEDs for prisoners, I do support that as well. I feel like just because you've made a mistake in life, as we all have, you should not be punished on receiving a better education or education in itself. And utilize that time to reform. I feel like, from what I've heard, a lot of these programs really touch these men and women's hearts and really radically change them for the best to become productive members of society. When it comes to crime, first of all, safety in our community is the most important. Any government, local, federal, given statistics can fluctuate year to year. It's important to remember that our first responders in our community are the uttermost importance. When it comes to skyrocketing crime, it's because there is typically a poverty issue or an issue of lack of resources in some capacity. There's a lot of variables, and I don't want to briefly speak on this because it's a larger conversation and topic. But with that being said, we have to support our local police to the end. They are number one. Our military deserves all of our love and respect to the end. Again, our veterans deserve the highest we can give them in every way, in every capacity, from housing to anything they need. They deserve everything because they've made this country, they fought for this country, and they've made it the free place that we are able to enjoy. But as we all know, population changes, and that's why we must remain as a community and commonwealth that abides by the rule of law. And I will always support that. I will always ensure that the rule of law is implemented, and any bill that's behind supporting our police and the rule of law, I will always support and get behind that.
Thank you. So according to masslegislature.gov, Lydia Edwards supported H 4885, which is a controversial new bill to limit the types of firearms, firearm accessories, and promotes red flag laws on legal firearm owners. So I'm going to ask one more brief question, simply of candidate Thomas. And then I will leave a few moments for people from the floor to ask their own questions, or perhaps mull about and socialize and speak face to face. But this one is regarding the war on drugs and addiction. We have seen an alarming number of drug-related deaths. Why do you think this is happening, and what might you suggest to address this unfortunate situation?
Paul, I'll get to that in 1 second. First of all, 2A is our God-given right. And I will never, ever, ever support anything that impedes on your right to bear arms in any capacity at all. So when it comes to the unfortunate epidemic, as we all know, we have a severe opioid pandemic and epidemic on our hands. I believe that it's due to a mental health crisis that isn't being addressed. We do need a lot more resources in order to help folks with mental health issues and ensure they're receiving the health and care and support that they need. I have seen and I've witnessed firsthand, unfortunately, I have family members that have been addicted to drugs where they just cannot receive or get a bed in a facility to get the treatment, to get on the right road, to get started. We are very lucky here in Winthrop, in Revere as well, and East Boston as well, where we have strong recovery units. Winthrop, we're so proud that they just did their 3rd annual recovery event down the center, and as well as the Town Hall Square. It was wildly successful and well received. That is the type of rally that we need in our communities all over Massachusetts in order to ensure that people are loved, support, and that they're not alone. Because there's nothing worse than an addict feeling that that they are alone and have no support and feel that shame and guilt. Addiction, unfortunately, it's just prevalent and widespread. I'm sure we all have a family member or a friend that we know that has suffered and or is suffering. We need to ensure, again, the resources are there and being implemented in every capacity to help our residents and our community members.
Thank you. So in accordance with our original agenda, I will stop the formal prepared question and answer period here. And if anybody has a question from the floor, we could take that. If nobody does, then, yes, if
Richard Allen from East Boston. Could you state your positions on the ballot questions?
Which ones particularly are you speaking about? Just all of them in general?
MCAS.
MCAS, I feel like it is pivotal and we need it. We need a measurement of not only our students' success, but that is also a reflection on our teachers. Poor school system, poor administration equals poor student performance. So I'm in full support in keeping MCAS on the ballot.
thank you. Well, anybody else?
Look, the MCAS, same thing. You pass the bill, it passes on legislation levels. You have superintendents in this area who refuse to answer to this type of, because the actually
Thank you.
percentage of illegals or non-speaking students in their classrooms are overwhelming, and they're so used to catering to them, they've stopped the attendance, they've stopped grading tests because it hurts them.
Correct.
So how do you prevent this from, even though you can put it on a ballot and give it a yes or a no answer, how do you prevent that from being implemented? Or actually, how do you implement it across the state when so many are on the liberal side of that question?
Well, maybe we do what 3A is doing to us and just make it law, and you have to do it, period. And your school funding and your Chapter 70 gets deducted for not meeting state requirements. I just do not fully agree. It can't be a goose and a gander. It can't be, we can implement laws and regulations and you have to do this for one group but not the other. That's not fair. I think that superintendents are trying to do the best that they can, but there is way too much leniency. They need to be held accountable. The teachers need to be held accountable. It's a standardized measurement of performance. Why, I understand.
It's not.
No, I understand ESL has become, because again, our demographic has changed dramatically, but then again, because we're a sanctuary state and sanctuary cities all around, where's the aid from the state to provide those resources so these ESL students can perform on that level and pass the MCAS?
I have a question, another question from the floor. What changes, if any, do you favor in the administration of the Massachusetts Port Authority?
Oh, I think it needs a good looking into. I think that there's a lot of funds that are not being utilized properly and correctly. But that's something deeper to look into, to be honest. Thank you for the question. And if I will post on my website a more detailed response in regards to this question.
Okay. Well, it looks like we have no more questions from the floor, so what we will do shortly is we can socialize here afterwards, and you can talk amongst yourself with the candidate. But I do want to thank everyone for attending and remind everybody that our elections are coming up in less than 30 days. This is a critical election which will determine very dramatically what direction our state and our federal government takes. And it is only by understanding the candidates and their positions that we get the knowledge to empower our vote to vote for the very best people that mean the very best to our country, our families, our communities, our states. So I want to thank you all for taking the initiative to learn more about the candidates. And again, if you have any questions, you want to find this organization, it's the Winthrop Republican Town Committee at Facebook. Thank you all for attending.